Hello, everybody. Cheers. Happy Wednesday, or whatever day it is when you're listening to this, if you're a listener after the fact. But welcome to the With Her Two Hands podcast, where each week we get to sit down with another incredibly talented woman who works in the still very non-traditional careers of the trades. I'm your host, Bogey, and I am a master auto mechanic by trade, but this series is all about celebrating women in all sorts of different trades, whether it's the construction trades, automotive trades, you name it. We've had somebody represented on this podcast, and we've gotten a great opportunity over the last couple of years to meet some really incredible women and share their stories. The purpose behind this whole series is because as somebody who has had the real honor and privilege to be kind of thrust into the spotlight through the TV show All Girls Garage, I hear often from people that they say, oh yeah, there's a handful of women who do this kind of work. I know 2 or 3 maybe, and they always talk about the women who are on TV. And the reality is there are thousands and thousands and thousands of amazing women out there in the world every day doing incredible work and just really unsung heroes and really fighting the good fight and dealing with a lot of crap, unfortunately, along the way, but also having some incredible successes. So this podcast is all about celebrating them, hearing their stories, hearing about their struggles, but hearing about their wins. And so I'm really excited to have you guys all join us this evening, and I'm excited about our guest tonight. I do have to say a big thank you to our sponsor for this episode is Drive Time. If you're not familiar with Drive Time, definitely go check them out. They're a really incredible organization. They're a used car seller, but they do so much more than that because they rehab their cars, and they have a huge in-house team of folks that does all of the work, and they create through that a lot of opportunities for young people to kind of get their start in the industry, find their home, find their passion, and get lots of training along the way. So if you're looking for a foot in the door, definitely a great company to go check out. And without further ado, it's time to jump into this. We have an amazing guest who is going to be joining us tonight. She is a woman of all trades. She is a Jane of all trades, one might say, but definitely doesn't go with that stereotype of master of none. She is a master of everything she does. She is a Red Seal journeyman plumber. She is also a roofer. She is also a Class B gas fitter. She does a lot of things, and she's being able to take all of those skills and bring them into 2, not 1, but 2 super successful businesses. And so I'm really excited to hear about her journey, how she got her start, and really how she got her businesses started, because I know a lot of folks out there watching this, and I hear from folks all the time who say that they would love to open up their own business one day. So curious to hear about what her experiences have been like doing that. So without any further ado, let's bring Marianne in, and you guys can meet her for yourself. Marianne, welcome. Hello.
How's it going?
Fantastic. How are you doing?
I'm great. Thank you for having me today. This is
Absolutely.
fantastic. Super
Absolutely.
excited.
I'm so excited. I've been following you for a little bit now on social media, and I think what you're doing is awesome. I love your content. I love how upbeat it always is, and just really shining a positive light on women in the trades and just everything you're doing to really pave the way for so many people. But I'm so curious how you got your start and how this whole journey started out for you. Before we dive in too deep, will you tell the fine folks at home, introduce yourself? You heard me give a little introduction to you, but tell us where you're at, and tell us about your business and what you do, and then we'll dive into the past.
Yeah, so I guess I started in construction when I was 18. I'm 37 now, so it's been almost 20 years, which is crazy to think about. I kind of feel a little old, actually, but it's all right. I guess in all honesty, was a high school dropout. Not that I was, failing my grades, because I was actually a straight A student. I was going to be a doctor originally. But when you drop out of school, you kind of close some doors. So I did end up getting my equivalency eventually, but I started exploring other options, and the thought of upgrading and all that was a little intimidating. So I had always had interest in the labor field, I guess you could say. I was raised on a hobby farm, so doing hard work was always part of your daily life, and the construction industry just kind of looked inviting, but fairly impossible at the time. It was a time back then, and I don't know, I guess eventually, after several hundred resumes, what it felt like, somebody finally gave me a job. And that was with a roofing and renovation company. So I started as a laborer and just worked my way up.
Interesting.
Eventually, plumbing, roofing,
All
gas.
right. Oh my God. Okay, so there's a lot in between there, obviously,
There's a
right?
lot. Yeah.
So we're gonna dissect this a little bit if that's okay. Do you mind me asking? So you were doing well in school and you were thinking about being a doctor. How come you dropped out? Because I feel like a lot of kids, especially kids who wind up in the trades, have that like school isn't for me. It's just like, was it that like it just wasn't for you? Were there other
Oh, no, school
situations?
was very much for me. Yeah, I was
Interesting.
like super good at school. But I was actually really heavily bullied in school.
Oh wow.
Yeah, and it was to the point that I just kind of got tired of dealing with it. So halfway through grade 11, I know I only had a year and a half left, and I said that I would do homeschooling instead. I
Oh,
got a job by that time at McDonald's.
okay.
It was, $6 an hour is pretty awesome, I guess. And yeah, I was working, and I ended up moving out pretty young. My came from a broken marriage, like my parents divorced when I was at that very impressionable age of 14, 15. So I moved out when I was like just barely 16. I don't even think I was 16 yet.
Oh wow, you were a
Yeah,
baby.
yeah. I was a year ahead, so in school, so that was why I was in grade 11 when I
Okay.
dropped out. It was 15. Yeah, I think.
Okay.
Yeah. So yeah, bullying basically is what drove me to
Mhm.
dropping out of school. But
Wow.
it's fine. I mean, um, yeah,
I mean, in
homeschooling.
retrospect, because
Yeah,
you turned out all right.
yeah,
But
exactly. But homeschooling, it was like not for me. No, I did not have the self-discipline for that at all. I know some people can do it, but I couldn't do
yeah.
it. No.
That's so crazy. I mean, it's one thing in like hindsight to be able to say like it all worked out well and everything is fine and like it's fine, but in the moment, I'm sure that must have been really traumatic and really difficult to have such extreme bullying that you were driven to leave.
Yeah, it sucked for sure. I would never
Yeah.
relive high school ever again, that's for sure. Or middle school, actually, for that matter.
Right?
Elementary school was cool. No, but yeah, middle school and high school, it was hard. It was definitely
Yeah.
hard. Yeah. So I would never relive those years.
Yeah. Oh my goodness. Well, I'm sorry that that was your experience. I mean, I'm glad you ended up where you ended up because you're rocking it.
Yes, thank you.
But I'm sorry that it had to be a challenging path to get there.
It just makes you stronger in the end. It really does. Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah,
absolutely.
totally.
So I mean, you said you grew up on a hobby farm. So what did that mean? Like, what is a hobby farm? What
Yeah,
does that
so
constitute?
mostly poultry, actually. Sorry, my chair's a little squeaky.
Okay, that's okay.
Needs some oil. Uh, Mostly poultry, but we had
Okay.
some larger livestock as well, like goats and pigs, and what else do we have? I think it was in the thousands. At the very least, the
Oh
high
wow.
hundreds of birds. Yeah, yeah,
Wow. Did
yeah.
you have any interest in going into farming? Like, was that an interest, or was that never a?
Uh,
That face just says it all. For those of you who are
Well,
listening
no,
and
I
not
really
watching,
enjoyed it. I did. I actually was really. I was kind of heartbroken when my parents split because the animals, obviously didn't. I moved with my mom because my dad
okay,
was not because I lived with my mom. My dad worked for the Coast Guard, so there was like no option with.
okay,
But I love both my parents; they're fantastic. Um, yeah. So I guess what was the question?
Are you a fellow ADHD girl? Shiny squirrel, what? It was, did you ever have any interest in being a farmer and
Oh,
kind of
yeah. I
continuing
mean,
that path?
to some degree, I guess, but I don't know. It was so long ago as well that
Yeah.
I couldn't even. I
Yeah.
don't think so because it was never in my cards. Like,
Okay.
I was going to be an astronaut at one
Okay.
point, and I was serious, very serious.
I like it.
Doctor, pediatrician, those were like my go-to. That's what I was going to do. One of those.
So how did laborer and tradesperson and roofer kind of come out of that? Because those are very different jobs.
They are very different. Well, like after moving out, I was working the kind of deadbeat jobs, and I admit that I got into trouble when I lived on my own at such a young age,
Understandably.
Yeah, we all kind of went through that phase, but it just happened really young. And I guess what happened, I was at a bus stop going to my deadbeat job, and I shouldn't say that. It was just a job for a young person.
Right.
And I was sitting at the bus stop, and somebody had asked me for directions, and this is like so bad, but he's kind of cute, and he offered a ride to town to my work after, and I took the ride.
Hey.
And we ended up going on a date, and he owned a construction company. Um, and he's like, well, like, what do you want to do? And I was like, I don't know. I worked at a pizza place at the time. I don't know what I want to do. And I was like, oh yeah, construction, that's super cool. I would love to get into something like that. I love working with my hands and crafty, and his response was, well, why don't you? And I was
Nice.
like, oh. And it obviously didn't work out. I mean, it's like a date picked up at a bus stop. So.
I mean, hey, you never know. Weirder things have happened.
That was kind of the bug that got in my ear. And then at that
That's
point, I just
amazing.
started putting resumes out. And funny story, actually, I ended up, the first job that I got was subcontracting from that guy.
Oh, how funny.
Like,
I mean,
hey.
it just goes to show you never know where like opportunities are going to come from. But I love that his response was, why don't you? And not, why would you want to? Right? Like that it was well, cool, do it.
Yeah, exactly. Especially for that time,
Yeah.
Like 20 years ago, it was not, women in construction was not prevalent, for sure. Not like it is today.
No, and we're seeing more and more, but it is definitely, I mean, we're still by far the minority, but back then, 20 years ago, it was dramatically worse.
Yes, it was very much worse on so many levels.
And I want to talk about it. I want to hear about it. So you're like, you don't have any experience, you don't have any training at this point. You're just putting yourself out there and applying for jobs. How did that experience go for you, and how were you received? Yeah, how'd that go?
Well, it didn't really go very well. I guess I probably handed out 100-ish resumes to pretty much every construction company in the yellow pages back when that was a thing.
Now we're just aging ourselves here, Marianne. Yellow pages.
0 response. Nothing. I got nothing. Yeah, which, is understandable, I guess, at the time. You got Marianne, Bowcott on your resume, and not that anybody ever called me for an interview, but if they did, I was like barely 100. I don't even think I was 100 pounds. 100 pounds, 5'2", 18-year-old teenager.
Yeah, with no experience.
Me either.
Right. Young, no experience, and female on top of it.
Yeah. But here, like, I totally missed that part of the question too. That whole ADHD thing, right? I live on an island in Canada, and it's Vancouver Island, Southern, and it's all about who you know here and not what you know. Well, not all, but it plays a role for sure. Yeah. So the only person that gave me a chance was a friend of mine's uncle.
Okay.
And after I had asked my friend if he could hook me up with a job because he was a roofer, and he said that he did, but when I asked his uncle, he did not. But that's okay. No, he gave me a job, and he gave me a job like immediately. Start on Monday, so I ended up working 3 jobs at that time. So I was pizza place during the evenings, roofing during the day, and then a bar at night.
Wow.
Yeah, on weekends. Yeah, so it was a lot. But yeah, he got me started, and at the pizza place, I was making $11.50 an hour as like a manager doing bar rush shifts, which was sometimes fun, I guess, but
Sometimes.
yeah. And he started me at $12.50, and I was like, wow, I'm rich. This is amazing. And yeah, so within a month I was making 17, and I was, had a nail gun and roofing away, and I did all the attic work for the carpentry side, renovation side of things. I got to try a little bit of tiling, and just a bit of everything. And I worked for him for probably about a year and a half to 2 years.
Okay.
And
were you just learning on the job as you went? Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. I'm a pretty quick learner when it comes to that kind of stuff, so I moved up fairly quickly. And but I worked with my ex. That was cool. I actually shouldn't say that because I work with my partner now.
Well, working with a current partner is different than working with an ex-partner.
I don't know. It's blood blast still almost every job, but it's fine. No, we don't work with each other all the time. But yeah, we worked together. My friend whose uncle owned the company was his cousin. My ex was his cousin. So we all worked together like one big happy family. And when things fell apart, I ended up going and working. I asked for a job from the company that we were subcontracting from.
Okay.
Which was a commercial roofing company.
Okay.
Where I met my current partner.
I love it. All right. So how were they with you? I mean, it sounds like, you kind of knew them. So were they cool with teaching you, taking you under their wing? Were you like, how was that kind of first job experience?
Yeah, it was a pretty small company, so it was just my ex, my friend, and then there was like another side of the company that did asbestos removal.
Okay.
But it was very much detached. So it was really just the 3 of us plus boss man, who was kind of old, so he didn't really do too much.
Wasn't there often.
Part. But yeah, it was excelling at something quickly is hard on people that you work with sometimes, especially when you're the female. So there was definitely some challenges in that aspect with my friend. There was some jealousy going on, and the fact that I was doing a little better than he was when he'd been roofing for a long time, I think left some sourness, but whatever, it's to be expected.
It's interesting. Yeah. No, that is definitely, I've heard that from people upon occasion. Like, it's one thing getting into a job and excelling right away if you're one of the guys. Then it's just like, oh, look at you, right? But when you excel really quickly and you're the woman, then there's all these other layers of stuff that come with that. How did you handle that when that started to rise up and you were experiencing that kind of like jealousy feeling and
I would just
ignore it?
Well, no, I don't think that I would ignore it. No, I would. There was definitely some back talk.
Okay.
I don't think I've ever really kept my mouth shut too much. There was a time and a place for sure, but no, I don't know. It just sometimes there was bickering, but whatever. I didn't work with them long enough for it to really make too much of a difference, I guess. Yeah, but I did with the commercial company that I worked with. I became the deficiency girl that would fix Yes, so I would go through, because it was all inspected jobs, I would go through and fix all the jobs that got buggered up, or the ones
Oh.
that didn't meet code, or that
Okay,
wouldn't.
it's like quality control to a degree.
It was the quality control, which made a lot of dudes butthurt, for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah, it made some bad juju on the job site every now and again.
Interesting. I bet.
Yeah, so yeah, there was definitely that, but it's like I didn't work with those people like on their crews. The crews that I worked on ever since the beginning really have been pretty fantastic,
That's awesome.
especially when I started with that company. My crew was amazing. Like, they were brothers. I was little sister, they took care of me, because my ex caused me a lot of problems after that, would even come to my job sites and stir things up.
Oh,
And
wow.
yeah, he even loosened the tires on my truck once. I drove
Oh,
like that
God.
for 3 days. Yeah, I had no idea.
Oh, my goodness. That's horrible.
Yeah. But no, I've been very blessed to have worked with some pretty amazing people, and really very knowledgeable tradesmen, and
Yeah.
I don't really say tradeswomen, because I don't think I've worked under any. No.
Nope. Do you remember have you ever worked with another tradeswoman? Did you ever come across
Not
that in the
before
field?
starting my company. I'm just trying to think about the last company I worked with. No.
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 So 19 years in, and not until you started your own business.
Yeah.
Interesting.
I think it's a tough question,
Yeah.
actually. No, I don't think so.
Yeah. I feel like that stands out when it happens.
Yeah, well, I mean, I worked on a job site with a lot of other women, but,
Yeah.
as plumbers, no, I don't think that I worked with any other plumbers.
Interesting.
No.
Did that bother you?
No, not at all.
Nice.
No. I mean, I enjoy the company of women. I do now, anyways. There was a time that I didn't, which is another reason why I was in construction. I worked at Wendy's as well, and there was some nasty women that I've worked with. They're awful, I don't know what their problem was, but
Well, I mean, just like there's some awful men, there are some awful women. Like, it's not,
yeah, I guess
there is.
yeah, but it kind of like veered me away from working with women for, a
Yeah.
long time. I was like, no, man,
Yeah.
construction, there's no women here. So, and it's funny because now I have
Interesting.
like such a great group of amazing women friends,
Yeah.
and I've had some great women employees, and I have some great women tradespeople that I have met over the years and have worked on job sites with, and yeah, it's a lot. I have a different outlook on it these days.
Yes. I can totally understand that.
Yeah.
Was there a point in this process where you fell in love with what you were doing? I mean, you kind of came to it in this weird sort of way, and it was definitely not like what you set out to do until this moment. You didn't have experience doing it before then. Was there a moment where you were like, yes, I love this, and this is what I want to do the rest of my life? Or did you just wake up one morning and it was 20 years later? Like, did you fall in love?
I can't believe it's been almost 20 years. Insane.
Time flies, man.
Yeah, it's nutty. I don't know, actually. I know that I really, really enjoyed roofing when I was doing it, until I started on big commercial jobs.
Okay.
I, as we have found out, have the attention span of that squirrel. So I get bored really easily, and those sites, this is why I've actually stuck with residential the whole time. Those job sites, I just got way too bored. The monotony of them, and just the same thing every day in and day out, the same drive every day and day out. And I found it very boring. I know some people love it, and it's just not for me.
Yeah.
And so I loved roofing until that point, and then I got really sick of it really fast. And that's when I started looking for some other options. Okay. Still in construction, though. I did definitely want to stay in construction. And there was a couple reasons behind that. Okay. One was because I do love working in construction. I love the freedom of it. It doesn't matter. Maybe there's even more freedom now, but at the time, when you still had to actually work for your job and prove yourself and all that, I don't know. It's just, I just liked it. But I didn't like roofing anymore. So I was looking for another job, and it was basically starting all over again with those resumes and trying to figure out what was going, any other option other than roofing, basically.
Okay.
And some other ones as well. But I went to a women's trades exploration course.
Oh.
I don't think I finished it, but it's a lot better now apparently. But when I went, it was like the first stages, I think, and it was okay. But the plumbing department, they had not a lot of like hands-on when it came to the plumbing. And there was just this wall, like a display case, and it was this glass display case, and there was a bunch of PVC pipe all put together in like this formation, and there's primer and glue like just everywhere. And like, I come from an artistic background. My mom, my brother, my sister, myself, even my dad. And it's like, oh my God, I want no part of that. But it was the first one that came my way.
Interesting. You mean the first job opportunity that came your way?
Yes. Yeah.
Interesting. So, like, initially you were repulsed by it, and
I wanted no part of plumbing. I was like, oh no, if that is what you do every day, then there is a hard no.
And then the opportunity came up, and you're like, okay, well, I guess this is it.
Yeah, well, with the roofing as well, like I tried to get an apprenticeship, but it was really hard to do because my boss at the time didn't think that I should be a flat roofer because I couldn't do it. And then I thought about going into sheet metal, but I don't know. It's because roofing and sheet metal are kind of in the same. They are in the same union, and I work for a union company.
Okay.
But I couldn't be in the union unless I was part of that side of the company. So, anyways, off track again.
No, that's okay. No, that's an interesting off track though. So you couldn't be part of the union because you weren't in that side of the business, and he wouldn't put you into the apprenticeship program because he personally didn't think that you should do it.
Mm-hmm.
Interesting.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And not that I'm like regretful of that, because do I really want to be a flat roofer now? It's like, no, not really, Though it is a great job and more people should join.
Well, there's
definitely need more roofers out there.
Right. Like, it's one thing to say like it's not for you versus like it could be a great career, just not necessarily what you wanted to do. But he made that decision for you, which is like that's not cool.
Yeah, definitely. He made it.
That's
because I tried. I even went to the union hall and everything. Well, I didn't go there. I called them, and they're like, "What do you mean you work for this company and you're not signed up with the union?" And I was like, "Yeah, I know." And it kind of like I got the pot stirring, and then guess what happened? I got shipped off to one of their subcontractors. So now I worked for their company and not the union company.
Interesting.
Yeah. Which is that great crew that I worked with, though.
Yeah.
So, but it's funny how it all.
Yeah.
But really, how I got into plumbing, that whole job opportunity, the only person that I really knew that owned a company was this guy, Rick. And I think I pestered him for like 2 years. And then I just eventually stopped. He was like a friend of a friend, had been to some parties together or whatever, and just pestered him. And I actually finally gave up. I just stopped because there was nothing. He said, maybe I'd give you a job if you did the entry-level course, which was a 6-month course. I was like, there's no way that I'm doing a 6-month course for a maybe. Mm-mm.
I mean, that's fair.
No. I mean, it's not like now where you could just like do the 6 months course and you get a job anywhere,
Right.
Here, anyways, like you can literally get a job anywhere.
Even as a woman, do you think it's changed that much over time that, yeah?
I mean, like, I know that some people still have a hard time finding a job. Some women, I haven't been following Facebook pages closely as I used to, but there's like a local Facebook tradeswoman page. And I know that some women still struggle, but for the most part, I think that it's easy to get a job. If you have like a foot in the door, you're like eager at all. It's like,
Yeah.
sure.
Yeah.
done.
So despite your disdain for plumbing at that point, you wind up going into plumbing and getting that job. Is it because you like applied for a ton of places and that was the only place that said yes? Kind of same thing, or
Yeah. Well, basically, yes. I at that time I think had I don't like to say that I threw in the towel, and maybe I was just taking a break from looking because I am like quite persistent when it comes to things. But it was summertime, so roofing's busy, and
yeah.
um, yeah, it was like it was all over again, trying to get your foot in the door. It's like I have construction experience. I can operate tools. I'm really good with a grinder and a skill saw. Gun, you can nail stuff all day long. And I couldn't get a job. I could not. And finally, he called me up out of the blue one day, went through a streak of bad employees, and said, "Do you still want that apprenticeship?" And I said, "I'm beside my boss right now. Can I call you back?" And then I talked about it with my partner, and he said that I'd be an idiot if I didn't take the job. So,
Okay.
yeah. And here we
Nice.
are.
All right. So did you wind up liking plumbing, obviously, because you stuck with
Yes,
it?
I did. Yes, yes. It's not the wall of plumbing. Ugh, whatever that was. I don't know who put that up there, but they should really, if they haven't, they should take it down.
They were doing a disservice to the
Yeah,
industry, yeah.
that is like etched in my brain.
So now you are a Red Seal journeyman plumber. So at some point you went through a formal apprenticeship then, yes, and training, or how does, because I'm from the US where we don't have fancy certifications and all of that kind of stuff. So what was
Is it not a red
involved?
seal trade in the States? Is
Say that
it, or
again?
like, what do they call it? Is it,
There's nothing. Like literally the person who paints my nails when I get my nails painted needs more certification than a tradesperson. At least in the automotive side, like auto mechanics, you don't have to have anything. There's nothing required to become
right,
a mechanic. We don't have an apprenticeship program and kind of all of that stuff formalized. Some states are starting to do it, but it's very rare.
really, that's bizarre.
Yeah, and I think in some of the construction trades within the unions, there's a little bit more of it, but it's really not as established as you guys have.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. It's a four, or it was at the time, a 4-year apprenticeship. And I think it was like almost 5,000 hours that I had to complete before I could hope that my boss would sign off on my apprenticeship.
Okay.
So it was 4 years of school, not full-time school, like full-time during a 6 to 8 week period. So
Okay.
first to third year was 6 weeks per year.
Okay.
And then fourth year was 8 weeks. And then at the time, plumbing and Class B gas was combined.
Okay.
So pending that you passed your plumbing ticket, you got your plumbing ticket, you would get your gas, pending that you pass the test on that side of the course. But they've now separated it, sort of. So now plumbing is 4 years still, 4 years school. I believe it's 5 years of hours. So it's like
Okay.
almost 6,000 hours, I think,
Yeah, it's a
or
lot.
6,000 hours. And then to get your gas ticket, you have to go for another year
Oh, wow.
of school. Yeah,
Okay.
which I don't disagree with, because there is some scary gas fitting out there. Scary. Yeah, so if it'll deter the people that don't work with gas that have their ticket
Yeah.
from getting their ticket and working on it, then I
It's a
think that
it's a good
I
thing.
think it's a good move. Yeah,
I'm
yeah,
I'm generally a fan of more certifications just in
mm,
general. I think it's
yeah,
when we're talking about stuff that's structural and stuff that can
yeah,
hurt people if it's not done right or like just why would we not want to have lots of certifications?
exactly. Yeah, and it's one of those things like, yeah, if you have your plumbing ticket and you pass your gas exam, it doesn't matter if you work with it or not.
Yeah.
You still have your ticket and can work on it, and you can tell when somebody has not worked with gas and they
Yeah.
are installing stuff.
Yeah.
And it's scary, Plumbing, it'll flood your house, sure. That sucks. But gas, that'll kill you, you know? So, I don't
Yeah,
use it.
no, that's definitely something that you want to have, like somebody who knows what they're doing.
Yeah, yeah. And I'm very grateful that I've been able to work with gas throughout my entire apprenticeship
Nice.
into, owning a company. We're probably 75% gas actually.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, so I'm very, very
Now, are
grateful.
you mostly residential on the plumbing and gas side of things as well? Like, did you have the same aversion to big commercial
Mm,
builds?
yeah, yeah. When I was an apprentice into journeyman status, I worked on spec houses
Okay.
in those big subdivisions where they're all cookie cutter houses, and
Mm.
I hated it. I hated it
Doing the
so.
same thing over and over and
It
over
was the
again.
same, literally the same thing,
Yeah.
like the same 5 houses over and over
Oh,
and
wow.
over again. And of course, if you get good at something, like I got good at the mechanical side with all exposed piping, being Miss Artiste, I could slam out these mechanical rooms super fast and they'd look super good. And so that is all I did for like a couple years. And I had to threaten to quit like
Oh,
3
wow.
times, I think, to finally move on to other things. It's like, I'm about to get my ticket in the next year or something like that. And I really don't know much about roughing a house. So it took some muscle to actually learn other things, because if
Yeah.
you, yeah, like I said, get good at one thing, you start doing that one thing.
Yeah, they found something you excelled at and they're like, sweet, someone's good at this. Keep them
Yeah,
there. Yeah.
exactly. Yeah. So when I left that company, I think my boss was pretty devastated because I was one of the only two, well, not the one of the only two gas fitters, because everyone's got their gas ticket, but one of the only two out of the company that were like running the gas jobs.
Oh, wow.
So yeah, he was pretty
Yeah.
impressed when I left.
Yeah. How long were you in the field and working for other companies before you decided to go out on your own?
I want to say it was 6 years, I
Okay.
think. Yeah. So honestly, I was fairly fresh into journeyman status when
Yeah.
I started my company, and I really didn't even want to start a company. It was
Okay.
it was like the last thing on my agenda, for
So
real.
why did you?
Yeah, like I like a steady paycheck, going to work
Okay.
for somebody else, leaving the job at the end of the day, drop tool belt and jam out the door, don't have to
Right.
think about anything for 24/7.
Mm-hmm. Yep. I love
um,
that like that's the myth though, right? Like people working jobs that want to own their own business. They're like, I want to own my own place so I can have more time and I can have more
yeah,
freedom. And I
right.
no. Meanwhile, all of us who have our own businesses, we're like, God, I miss the days when I could just punch a clock and leave.
No, it's like the first thing I think about when I wake up. I dream about it. First thing
So why did you start a business if this was not what you thought you wanted to do? How did that happen? Was it like by accident? Oops, I own a business now. How did this happen?
Well, sort of, sort of.
Okay.
I actually hurt my back. I hurt my back once roofing, so
Okay.
sciatica, full fledged, pinched a nerve
Mm.
on the right side. So I was all, "Arr." um,
Twins. I got the same
yeah.
thing.
Eventually, it got better, and then at work plumbing, 9 years later, I tweaked the other
Of
side.
course.
Same disc apparently, or same vertebrae, I don't know, whatever. Anyways, exactly the same on the opposite side. So I was off work for 3 months.
Oh wow.
Yeah, that was hard.
Yeah.
And I went through a little phase where I was like, I can't do this job. We
Mm.
shouldn't be in construction. I was like not a spokeswoman for women in trades at that time.
Because of the physical injuries, or was there other
No,
reasons?
it was all about the physical injury. Yeah.
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 Yeah, 100%. I was Miss Negative Nelly for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah, and yeah, so I was like, you know what? I'm going to do something else because I am smart. I'm going to go back to school. I'm going to go get my hair ticket.
Really?
Yes,
Okay, so you went like total opposites.
I did.
Okay.
But the problem with that is that you go all the way back down that ladder. So,
Yes.
not that I was like a very high paid journeyman plumber, because, back then it wasn't really a thing getting paid high dollars, especially as a woman. But
Right.
yeah, going from what I was making to making a minimum wage
Yeah,
and having
starting all over.
school again, like full
Yeah.
time school, like actual full time, where you need a student loan. When I went to school, it was like $500 each year, and that covered.
Seriously?
Yes, oh
Oh my
yeah,
gosh.
it
Wow.
was cheap. Yeah,
It was not that
it's more
cheap for
expensive
me.
now, but at the time it was like $500-600 or something, and you were good to go.
Wow.
Yeah, so I was gonna do hair. I even
Okay.
applied for the student loan. I got approved,
Okay.
and then I was like, wow, okay, I got approved. I'm like sweating. Oh God. Okay. I also bought a house at 23.
Okay.
My partner and I, we bought a house, and I got a mortgage, and I've got this new truck that I just bought, because of course you make more, you spend more.
Right. Yes.
And I had this truck, and I've got truck payments, and I've got mortgage and bills and this, that, and the next thing. And I'm like, how am I going to do this? And, as that time went on, my back started getting better. I was more mobile. I still struggled. But, my partner, he said, why don't you just pick and choose your jobs and maybe try your own thing? Do some side jobs or something,
Okay.
I was like, and then there was like some women over here, because I actually started sewing custom swimsuits, because I sew as well, or at least
Oh
I
my
used,
goodness.
yeah, I used to sew custom swimsuits.
I
And so,
already thought you were a woman of all trades, and now you just like keep throwing out more
yeah, well, it
things that
was
you
easy
excel
because I
at.
could just sit there and sew, or I could just stand there and sew all day, because had
Okay.
nothing else going on. So it's like, oh, I'm going to just sell some swimsuits on Etsy. And
Amazing.
yeah, it got really busy really fast, and I don't sew at all anymore. Oh God, I lost track of what I was saying.
Your partner was encouraging you to do some
Oh,
side
right,
jobs.
yes. So I had this other company that I started, Surge Apparel and Beachwear, and so that was like getting super busy. And I guess, yeah, I couldn't, I just couldn't make that a job. So he said, maybe you should just try and do your own thing. I had some women over here from like Women in Business group being like,
Okay.
oh, your swimsuits are awesome, but you should really just start a plumbing company. I was like, okay. Okay. But I'm not going to put my name on the business card, just like I decided to not put my name on my resume, my first name,
Interesting.
because I don't want
Because
people to
you were
know.
a woman.
Yes.
Because of a woman's name. Okay.
Yeah. I didn't want people to think that they were, well, to find out unexpected, well, it was
Yeah.
unexpected,
Yeah. I
but I
did the
just didn't
same
want them to
thing.
know.
It's
Yeah. I
interesting.
was
I did the same
afraid that
thing
I
when
wouldn't get jobs.
yeah. When I started my shop, I like very much did not want my name associated with it. I didn't want anybody to know that it was a female-owned shop. And it wasn't until like after the fact that I realized that that was actually an asset and not a
Yeah, I
detriment.
found that out after too.
Yeah.
I was like, what should I call the company? And some people were like, oh, girly name, feminine name. And then there was other like, no, don't do that. You're going to end up broke as a joke, You're not going to have any jobs.
Yeah.
And I was like, oh, okay, well, how about like a name that sounds corporate, So I came up with Westcom Plumbing. That's Western Communities, because
Okay.
that's the area that we live in. So Westcom Plumbing and Gas. Well, heating originally, until I incorporated.
Okay.
And then I switched the name. And now I kind of wish that I went the opposite way, because, it's just myself and one other person now.
Yeah.
But at the time that there was like 9 of us, it was pretty well all women the whole time.
Wow, seriously.
Yeah, that we've had
That's amazing.
three men. Yeah, 3
Was
men.
that intentional, I'm assuming?
No, it was
Oh.
not. It was not, because we don't get resumes from guys.
Because guys don't want to work for a woman.
Yeah. Which is understandable. I get it. I get it. Like,
I kind of do and I kind of don't. Like, I hear you and
for a very known woman-owned and mostly female staff.
Yeah.
Does that guy, out of all of the options he has on the southern Vancouver Island, why in the hell would he pick me? You know?
I feel like it weeds out the jerks though, right? Because the guys that do apply are going to be the awesome guys.
All jerks. No, they're not.
They are not. Some of them are wonderful. There's a lot of jerks, but some of them are wonderful. And I feel like, because I had the same thing. I had a mostly female, like employee base at my shop, but I did have a couple of men, and like it weeded it out because like no jerk dude was gonna apply at my shop. So like I only got like the good ones, which was nice.
Yes.
It was a nice little filter.
I don't have any now, so yeah. But the ones that I did have were great. They were great, but one left for the union because of whatever reason the union has more to offer.
Yeah,
that's what they think, anyways, until they actually work for the union. Anyways, but we won't get into that. And then another one, he was actually a landscaper. And opening a landscaping company, which good for him. Okay. And then another one, it just didn't work out.
It happens. It happens. So you've been in business now for how long?
8 years. Yeah, just over 8 years. 8 years. It was 8 years in March, I think.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's amazing. That's no small feat. Like it's
8 years.
Right? Time flies. I mean, it's a big deal. People who don't own businesses don't necessarily know this or appreciate like how big of a thing it is to stay in business for 8 years, to make it that long. So congratulations. That's phenomenal. That's great.
Especially when you have a tool purchasing program.
Yes.
Problem, sorry. Or program.
Right, an addiction to tools. We've got a comment here from another plumber. Actually, I don't know if you know Kelly Ireland. She says, "Not saying guys aren't scared to work for me. Most wouldn't like what we said. We get the good guys because it's generally guys who don't like accountability, who don't want to work for a woman." That's a fair point. If you guys aren't connected, Marianne and Kelly, you guys should totally meet each other if you have not yet. I will connect you guys offline. Also a business owner in the plumbing world. So, yeah. So you've been in business for 8 years. That's phenomenal. That's usually successful. And you just added on because you had a plumbing business, plumbing and gas. Mm-hmm. And now you just added to that. And now you have a roofing division or a whole separate company as well.
It's a company under.
Okay. Like a sub company. Yeah.
Yeah. And it's like very, like, I don't advertise, I'll like post the odd thing on Instagram or whatever. But for the most part, it's just all word of mouth because summer is a very short time. Mm-hmm. Don't really do much roofing except for repairs in the winter. And by the time, we're already booked up for the year. We were booked up for the year before, it was, I don't know, last summer.
That's incredible.
Yeah, because you can only take on so much.
Yeah. So are you all word of mouth mostly and referral business?
100%, yeah. 100% word of mouth. Yeah.
So now looking back, like, do you find it an asset? Like, is it a benefit being a female now that you're your own business owner? Does it not make a difference?
Both, or for the roofing?
For either. And when not so much obviously when it comes to employees, but like when it comes to customers, is it a benefit? Does it hurt you that you're female?
Yes and no. Like there's obviously some people that we don't know because they don't hire us because we're women. And that's fine. I don't really care at all, actually.
Right. I don't want to work with you anyway. Yeah.
Exactly. And the people that do hire us already know, even right from the beginning, because I come from a small town, and this is where my home is based, and this is the home-based business where we're, we do work all over the South Island, but because I come from this town, which is very small. It was very easy to open the company. Word got out very quickly. And it's like, oh, I went to school with her. Oh, I was her teacher, like I
Right.
see her at the grocery store every day because she doesn't plan well enough meals for the week. Yeah, so it was very easy to open a company. But the people that do hire us already know.
Yeah.
But we do a lot of work for like single women, single
Nice.
moms, who, some of them may have had issues in the past with men or
Yeah.
don't feel comfortable having a man in their home when they're at home alone.
Yeah.
So we get a lot of clientele like that, which is nice. It's nice being able to be somebody that can work in a home for a
Yeah.
while, that maybe has a little bit of trauma in that, or like a little bit scared or
Yeah.
whatnot. So
Yeah.
yeah, it's nice.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
I love it. All right, so now, I mean, you didn't want to own a business, and then you kind of now you're 8 years in. Are you?
Want to? I don't want to. No, I like my paycheck every 2 weeks. It's great. Funny
Do
how life
are you
works.
glad? Are you glad you started the business, or do
I
you?
am. I mean, obviously, some days I'm just like, just but it lets me lead a pretty amazing life. Like, yes, I had freedom then. When I worked for a company, I would take off for my 4 weeks a year on vacation, whether
Yeah.
boss man liked it or not, which was not, but I went anyways. And it was really flexible and all that, but it's even, I don't want to say that it's even more flexible, because it's a lot of work.
Yeah.
Like I get up at 5, sometimes earlier, sometimes a bit later in the morning, and I do paperwork
Yeah.
until I leave, and then
Yeah.
I come home and usually do the mass phone calls, because I really don't answer my phone during the day, and I know some people hate it because I'm really sometimes hard to get a
Yeah.
hold of.
Yeah.
But it says right in my answering machine that I will get back to you when I can. Because we are in high demand, and not just me, and
Yeah.
not just myself as being a woman plumber. Every plumbing company here is like that. So it's
Yeah.
not like it's just a
Yeah.
me thing.
Yeah.
We're all busy. Yeah.
Yeah, I feel like being a business owner, like you do eventually like get to the point where you have a little more freedom and a little more flexibility, but like you put in your time. Like you
Yeah, and it's
definitely
all
put in your
self-inflicted,
time.
100%, 100%. Like I'm not just busy at work. Like I do all my extracurricular things outside of work, and that I
Yeah.
somehow cram into my schedule. Like
Right.
surfing and climbing and roller skating and what else do I?
All
What
the
else
other
do I do?
things.
I don't know. There's like the house chores too that you still need to like cram in there. You go to the gym.
Right, those. Yeah.
So it's all self-inflicted, 100%. But I wouldn't change it, because I don't think that I could work for somebody now too.
Yeah. Yeah. I definitely I say cheers to that. I hear you.
Yeah, I've always been bossy, but now I'm even more bossy, I think.
What would you say has been your like biggest challenge in starting and growing your business?
Uh, the startup, actually, that whole bit with not putting my name on the business card,
Mm,
that was, I think, the biggest struggle. And definitely starting up financially was hard, because you need a lot of tools as a plumber,
yeah.
especially one that does a bit of everything. Some people are shocked at how many tools I own, but really it's like you're doing plumbing, you're doing gas, you're doing all different types of plumbing, you're doing drain clean, you're doing renovations, new construction, repairs. There's a lot going on. So the financial bit was hard. And then the startup was, I don't know, I guess just a mental challenge, just,
Yeah.
yeah, I don't know. I think
Did
that was,
you start small and grow? And you said at one point you had eight people working for
yeah,
you.
like 9 of
Like,
us all together. So yeah, 8.
So did you grow
I
organically, or was it like, did you go take out a loan and go big? Like,
no, it was kind of slow and steady with the employees. Like I didn't have any for the first year or two. I can't remember
yeah,
exactly. And then, there was one, and then there was none, and then there was another one, and there's two, and then there
yeah.
was 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. And, I was warned in the beginning not to go too big too fast, but I didn't listen. I like to learn my own lessons. And I
Fair.
did. That's exactly what happened, and
Yeah.
it wasn't the financial bit in that. And mind you, it's not like I made any more money, because I did not. I think I made less money, actually. And yeah, I guess I got to the point COVID hit.
Ah,
Not to bring up that bad word or anything like that, but COVID did
right.
hit, and
Yeah.
it gave me a very easy way to do some housekeeping.
Mm.
And I just got rid of everybody at the time, because everybody could get the CERB was like the
Right.
government
Okay.
giveaway of money
Stimulus. Yeah.
for all. So everyone was able to get CERB. I didn't know what was going to happen. We got a month of cancellations in the first
Yeah.
month, which was pretty freaky. But
Yeah.
within 2 weeks, we were busier than ever. So I took the
Right.
ones that were really good back,
Okay.
and then kept it small at that point. Yeah.
Nice. Do you
Yeah.
think you'll keep it small now moving forward, or do you have aspirations of going big again?
I've always had the dream of having, well, not always, because I didn't want to open a company. I have recently, in the last few years, since owning a company, wanted to grow the company to the point that there was multiple vehicles, and self-run,
Yeah.
manager, super foreman, whatever. But after going through that with the with how employees are now, as
Yeah.
I'm generalizing that 100%,
Sure.
but how most employees are now, I don't know if it's, I don't even know if it's, I mean, for one, I still have that problem with, I don't get men asking for jobs.
Yeah.
And really, there aren't a lot of women plumbers, especially
Right.
here. So how am I supposed to grow a company when there's no employees to
Yeah.
choose from, you know?
Is it still like, is it real bad still, like just the deficit of tradespeople or the shortage
Oh,
of tradespeople? You're still
yeah.
seeing that real bad?
Oh, it's crazy. I don't know about elsewhere, but very much here, because people come here to retire.
Yeah,
A
you
lot
live in
of
a very
people,
specific type of community too.
yeah, like
Yeah.
it's very unaffordable here to live. The price of food, the price of gas, like right now we're doing pretty good, and we're at $2 a liter. So that's $8 a gallon,
Oh
everybody,
wow.
in the US of A. Yeah, it's bad. It's bad. Like there was a point, like I drive diesel van. It was like 270 something a liter.
Oh wow.
Times that by 4. I don't know what that equals.
A lot. It's a lot of money.
A lot, yeah.
It's a lot of
So,
money. Yeah.
and then housing, if you can even find a place to live here.
Yeah.
Like I am so blessed to own a home, because if we were renting, we wouldn't be able to buy a place now.
Yeah.
Like we bought this place 13 years ago, and
Wow.
there's no way that we would be able to find a place now.
Yeah.
You can't find a rental. Like there's bidding wars for rentals.
I feel like that's all over excuse me, all over the country these days. Like I don't
Crazy.
know how anybody is buying their first home in this
No.
market. I I feel really bad for people who are coming up in this market
I
right now.
know, and it's unfortunate. Like a lot of people that I went to school with don't live here anymore because they can't,
Yeah.
or it's cheaper to live elsewhere in Canada. They moved to Alberta or
Yeah.
wherever.
Yeah.
Don't know where they moved to, but they don't live here.
Right.
And that was a lot of people that worked in construction, and it's you make more when you work in the camps too, or you go off in these like northern areas and you work there. You make like 5 times as much as you do making here,
Oh,
that you make.
interesting.
Yeah, but you don't. You either move there or you don't
Right.
sleep in your own bed at night for however many days you go to these camps. So
Gotcha. Interesting.
yeah, so we're in a very massive labor shortage, and it's not just the trades. It's everywhere. It's like, Tim Hortons, McDonald's,
Yeah. Everywhere.
stores. It's crazy. I don't know
Interesting.
what they're gonna do. Yeah.
Interesting. All
Yeah.
right. Well, I just looked at the time, and
Where are we at?
we had spent an
Damn!
hour talking already. I feel like we're just scratching the surface. I've
I
had
know, right?
so much fun talking with you. You've gotten lots of love in the comments. It's been fun watching the comments kind of popping up. I want to be respectful of your time. I don't want to keep you much longer, but I do have to ask if we can go like a few minutes long because I have at least one more question I want to ask you. Okay, awesome. So final question that I like to ask everybody is if you had the opportunity to talk to younger you, little baby Marianne, and maybe this is before you got into the trades, maybe this is before you started your own business, maybe this is somewhere along the line, but if you had the opportunity to talk to a younger version of yourself and give yourself some advice, what would that advice be?
I guess it depends if it would change the future or not. I don't know. I guess, yeah, that younger self of mine, that little picked on student in school. I'd probably tell her that all those people that are picking on you are going to try and be your friend later. Yeah, it's pretty comical actually sometimes. Yeah, I would just tell her that it's okay. Don't worry about it. It's just high school. It will pass eventually. But I don't know. There's a lot of things that I think I want to tell my younger self, but probably one is just chillax and don't worry about other people think, because it doesn't matter. It really doesn't. It doesn't now. It doesn't then. Didn't then.
Yeah,
Doesn't matter.
I love that. I have to follow that up though with another question, because we say that, don't let it bother you, let it roll off your back, don't let other people's words affect you, and it's so easy to say, so much harder to do.
Yeah, I wouldn't have listened to me if I was saying that. I didn't listen to anybody.
Right, because it is easy to say, it is very hard to do. Do you have a like tools that you use, or ways that you help yourself, like remind yourself that lesson now, like to, because I think we all do it even as adults, like we have those moments where we let other people's words affect us even though we know better intellectually, like that it doesn't matter and what they think doesn't matter, but we still let it in sometimes. Do you have tools that you use to help remind you to not let that get under your skin?
My husband, he's like literally, when I'm getting all fired up, which happens, he actually has dubbed me the Taz. Because it's just like a whirlwind. Yeah, usually when things are getting me all fired up, which usually has to do with work, because that's really the only thing that gets me fired up,
Yeah.
he's the one that coaxes me down. He's a bit older than me, like he's 9 years older than me. He's been in construction ever since he was like 13.
Oh wow.
Roofer. Everybody join roofing. No. Yeah, so he's been around a long time. He's been raised with roofers, which is a pretty hard thing to do, I'm sure. So he lets things roll off so easily, and I think that he just kind of helps you, like, just relax, just let it go, and yeah, sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't, but do I do it myself? Do I have tools myself? Not really. No.
Surrounding yourself with people who are a good support system.
Yeah, I got him, so that's all I need.
That's awesome. That's awesome. Well, big thanks to your partner then for being so supportive, and I think the takeaway from that is that having good people in your life is how we remind ourselves, and because sometimes we need a reminder too from the outside to be like, hey, it's okay, you're gonna be all right. Like, breathe. You're
Definitely
okay.
surrounding yourself in the people, good people.
Yeah.
That has been a very large part of my life, because when I was hanging out with not so good people, I was not in a very good place in my life. And now having like such a great group of friends who are nothing but genuine, having a great man in my life, you know, like it's all about who you surround yourself with. It really, really is. So,
It is.
word of advice: if you have crummy people around you, get them out of there.
Yes.
Immediately.
Cheers to that, and a fantastic note to end on, because that's could not be a more true statement. The people who surround you make all of the difference in the world. So, thank you so very much, Marianne. We could talk for hours more. I'm sure there's so many things that we could dig into. But this was so great getting to hear your story and your perspective and your successes. I'm so excited for you and everything that you've been able to accomplish. And I know it's just going to continue whatever you decide to do, whether it's growing into a massive corporation or keeping it small, you're going to be successful. So this was a ton of fun. Folks at home, I hope you guys enjoyed getting to know Marianne as much as I did. Make sure that you tune in every week to meet more incredible women like Marianne. You can find her at The Lady Plumber on Instagram and on TikTok. I'll have all of her contact information, well, not contact information, but where you can find her on social media down in the description below. So definitely follow her and show her some support and love, and make sure you come back next week to meet another incredible woman of the trades. We also release an archived episode of this series every Monday. So 2 times a week, you get to meet an incredible woman. Every Monday, archive, and every Wednesday, new live episodes, always on YouTube and on Facebook at 5 p.m. Pacific, 8 p.m. Eastern. And of course, you can always catch these episodes audio version only anywhere you listen to your podcasts. If you enjoy this series, please take the time to subscribe, hit like, leave a review, leave a comment. The more reviews we get, the more eyes get on these incredible women and get to celebrate along with them all of their successes as they pave a way in these incredibly non-traditional fields. So thank you all for your time, spending part of your evening with us tonight, and make sure you come back next week. Until next time, be good to yourselves, be good to one another. Take care. Bye, guys.